Welcome, I'm Dr. Fuse. So you are in Anatomy 1500 and I am in my virtual classroom. This is my little space I've cut out in my basement that I teach from. So I am happy to take care of you this year, working through anatomy. This is a 12-week course, which means it flies. We'll be going at an extremely rapid pace, which is going to put a huge demand on you to keep up on things. So you've obviously accessed my Blackboard site already, and because you're watching this. So how do you do this class? Start with the objectives for each unit. On Blackboard, you'll see a tab there that has unit objectives, and they're in order and they're critical. Read your textbook, take notes on those objectives. Make sure you can answer them all. The presentations that I have posted there are supplemental to you. There's all the information in the objectives are presented there. Excuse me. So everything you've got is in the presentations and in the objectives. Every test that you take will be the same. They're all going to be 50 questions long. They will all be timed, which means you only have 45 minutes to take it. Okay. You cannot go back once you answer a question. And part of this is all it's all just about test security and taking tests at home and everything. But I'm going to warn you that it's too fast to be able to look things up. So you really have to know the material before you take the test. If you don't, you're going to be trying to look things up in your notes. You're going to be looking things up on the presentations, and you will never be able to finish. So you have 50 questions. Anything that's unanswered at the end is counted as an incorrect answer and will be counted against you. So you're better off having the information. If you've got those objectives down rock solid, you should be able to crush all of the tests. Should be no problem. You do get to drop your lowest test grade. And since all the tests are 100 points, there are 50 questions, 100 points. Whichever your lowest score is throughout the course, the 12-week course, that one will be eliminated from your grade automatically. There will be a lab practical and a final exam. And the lab practical is going to be mostly lab related. I understand that we're not meeting in a lab. So it'll be a lot of diagrams, labeling. Those are the sorts of things that you can expect to see on the lab practical. Like bones, I might have a actual bone, a real bone, with something with a tag on it that I want you to identify. And as you go, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm expecting of you when you get to that part in skeletal. At the beginning of each unit, I'll give you a little brief video like this to try and keep you going in the right direction, gives you some hints. Some of the things that are difficult to understand, I'll try and debug those. Like when we get to blood typing and stuff like that, I'll show you some tricks to that rather than just looking at the presentation trying to figure it out. Okay, so we'll do that. Few other things, emailing me is always the best way to communicate, especially because we're in an online format. So if you email me, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I don't just sit on my email all day. So just have a little bit of patience with me when it comes to that, but we will get your questions answered just pretty quickly. Okay, so start out reading your textbook, but using the objectives. The objectives are your guide. I'm not going any deeper into the material than what's listed in the objectives, even if the textbook does. So bear that in mind. Take your notes based on what you see in the objectives. Use the presentations to fill in all the gaps. Make sure you watch them all. And then you could decide, what's a better way for you. Maybe all you want to do is watch the presentations and you're not a textbook reader. I don't really recommend that. There's a lot of good information in the textbook that helps you understand what's written on my presentations a little bit. So I wouldn't recommend just using the presentations for everything. But someone else, they may find that just reading the text and having all the objectives answered really well and studying that, all the vocabulary, maybe that's the best way for you. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to work best. What I can say is you're going to have to spend time on this. It's like learning a foreign language. There's a ton of material and it comes at you extremely fast. 12 weeks is a very short amount of time to go through the entire body. And that's what we're doing. We're going through the whole body. We're going by system. Some introductory stuff, of course, and then it's one system and then another system and then another system. Your tests may include more than one system on them because they're going to basically happen pretty much every week. There'll be a test. So the tests are going to cover mostly the material from the last test, between the two. Okay, so that's about all I've got right now. Couple just things we should talk about in the intro unit that would be useful to you now. One is understanding what anatomic position is. Anatomic position is standing up. It's palms forward, upright, head looking forward. That is the anatomic position. And the reason I tell you that is because when we're using some of the terms that you're going to see come at you early in the course, things like superior and inferior, for instance. Superior means towards the top, inferior means towards the bottom, but that applies to a body that's placed in anatomic position. So the head is always superior to the abdomen, for instance, and the abdomen would be inferior to the head, you see. So we can locate different parts of the anatomy by using that sort of a term. Okay. The other thing we want to watch out for is the term medial and lateral. When you're using that one, you got to remember anatomic position has the palms forward at your side, not up here. That is not anatomic position. It's forward and at the side. Because when you're in this position, if you look at the hand here, the thumb is further from the middle of the body. That makes it lateral. The pinky is closer to the middle of the body. That makes it medial. So anything that's further from the midline, that's lateral to anything that's closer to the midline, which would be medial. Those are opposites. So when you're doing those types of terms, you want to learn them as a pair. Medial, lateral, superior, inferior, superficial, deep. If you do that, it's kind of like just learning one thing. You're just learning two things at the same time, but it's really taking the amount of time and energy as if you're only learning one. Okay. Another one that's confusing often is proximal and distal. Usually, there are a couple rare exceptions, but usually those terms are used when we're talking about our extremities, our arms or our legs. And proximal means closer to the attachment point, which would be up here by your shoulder. Distal would be further away from the attachment point. So my fingers are distal to my wrist because they're further from where my arm attaches. My elbow is proximal to my wrist because it's closer to where my arm attaches. So we'd use this for arms and legs, our extremities is where we'd see proximal and distal. Okay, so those tend to be a little bit confusing. That's why I like to give you a little bit. So that's kind of how we're going to be doing things. I will give you a little preview and a talk on some things that are more difficult to understand as we go. Okay, all right. Well, good luck this semester. Work hard. You've got to put your time into this course. You can all get A's. I've got absolute no doubt of that. But you won't be able to do it if you don't work hard and really make sure that you're ready for those tests, because 50 questions in 45 minutes, you'd think, oh, well, and they're all multiple choice, true, false, matching, that kind of stuff. It's not time to sit and think it all the way through. You don't have that kind of time. You have to know the answer it, go on to the next one. And remember, you can't go back ever. And it does say that at the beginning of each test, just so you remember that. All right, then. Thank you, and good luck this semester. We'll be in touch.